Atlantis Rising Research Group, audiobooks. From Atlantis Rising Magazine number 49. Shipping out to Mars. Atlantis Rising Magazine has long sought to unearth and discuss what some have gone to extremes to conceal and which most, having been carefully kept ignorant of the most fundamental awarenesses and scientific discoveries, couldn't even imagine. Now a plan's afoot to get the American public to fork out over $1 trillion to send a manned mission to Mars, using conventional propulsion technology no less. Right? Suppose we've not only already sent people to Mars, but it has become routine? What if no rockets were needed? What if the technologies presented to us as science fiction in the old TV series, Time Tunnel and Stargate SG-1 and spinoffs are in fact real and have been in use for decades? What follows draws upon a series of accounts to set forth a truly astonishing scenario of a scientific breakthrough so staggering in its import and sweep as to richly merit the characterization epoch-making. And the scientists reportedly involved are giants in their own right, Tesla, Einstein, and von Neumann, to name but three. Foggy Philadelphia. Our story begins in a sense, has many beginnings in truth, in the dark days of World War II as the U.S. mounts a desperate search for ways to overcome a shipping loss rate so severe that sinkings are outpacing the building of replacement ships. The Battle of the Atlantic is in full cry, the Allies are losing, and Great Britain is on the verge of being starved out of the war, being critically dependent on outside shipments not just for war materiel but also food. The best brains in the country convene under the aegis of Princeton's Institute for Advanced Studies to seek a breakthrough technical solution in the farthest reaches of mathematics, physics, and electromagnetics. The result? According to some insiders, the Philadelphia experiment, technically Project Rainbow, a successful demonstration, although with multiple fatalities, of ship invisibility and inadvertent teleportation. According to the U.S. Navy on its official website, nothing happened, and the whole thing is a myth. There sure are some strange things going on if it's just a myth, though. Why, for example, did the U.S. government completely block the U.S. showing of the Thorn-Emmy film, The Philadelphia Experiment, for 3 years? Why did one of the key people in the film's creation choose to remain uncredited? Why did the producer of a Philadelphia Experiment episode of ON's former program The Unexplained reportedly flatly refuse to let part of a segment, which demonstrated optical invisibility, be shown? Why were certain Tesla videos also kept out of the US for years? What is it we're not supposed to know? Project Rainbow, a short course. The basic concept was that the juxtaposition of powerful rotating electromagnetic fields, created by generators running demagnetizing coils normally used to protect ships against German magnetically triggered mines, and microwaves, from reworked radar transmitters, would dimensionally shift the vessel just far enough out of this set of spacetime references as to be optically invisible. This was all that was needed, since the German U-boats had no radar and couldn't torpedo what they couldn't see. The story goes that Tesla spearheaded the initial development work, with planned installation aboard a battleship, to allow plenty of room for customarily bulky, crude prototype equipment, but resigned in dismay after Navy officials refused to heed his warning that while the ship would indeed become invisible, the crew would be in mortal jeopardy. Enter von Neumann, mathematical genius and the father of cybernetics. He takes over Tesla's role, and the project goes forward. Tesla's precipitous departure is bad enough, but a much worse blow is the diversion of the planned testbed vessel to combat. The replacement ship is a tiny destroyer escort, the DE-143 USS Eldridge, aboard which there is so little space that much of the interior is gutted, certain weapons are removed, and lots of the equipment which used to be on the battleship has to be installed dockside. Work proceeds at breakneck speed until one fateful day of testing arrives in 1943, with results, or a lack thereof, hotly debated to this day. What is known, though, is that the ship's log, the primary record of every happening of importance aboard the ship from initial commissioning to decommissioning, is missing the log pages covering precisely the dates in which some claim the ship was used for Project Rainbow. Mutilating a logbook is a serious offense, yet no one was ever brought to book for it. Why? If the accounts by purported eyewitnesses and insiders who say they read the highly classified Project Rainbow report are to be believed, a technical miracle occurred and a disaster ensued, together with several wholly unexpected results. A kind of green fog appeared around the Eldridge, through which she could still be seen, then she disappeared. She disappeared from the Philadelphia Navy Yard in Pennsylvania, only to reappear an instant later at the Norfolk Navy Yard hundreds of miles away in Virginia, to the considerable shock of soldiers loading on troop transports there, then popped back to the Philadelphia Navy Yard, where the generators and magnetrons were turned off, and a horrifying sight appeared. Remember the old Star Trek nightmare scenario of being inadvertently beamed into and materializing inside solid rock? Suppose something like that happened on a ship where the ship and crew no longer shared a common reference system, with the crewmen phasing back from their hyperdimensional trip into, rather than on, the deck and bulkheads? Could men die, go mad, or worse as a result? The insiders say that's what happened. What's worse than dying as described? How about spontaneous human combustion or phasing in and out, with no control of this reality, becoming a kind of living ghost and apparently the subject of truly strange reports of disembodied voices heard coming from the wall in a sailor's bar in Philly and mentioned in a local paper? The supposed problem was that while the ship's reference system remained intact, that of the sailors was wrecked, in a sense casting them adrift between dimensions and subject to forces only partially understood now. And this all reportedly took place decades before superstring theory and its 10 dimensions came along. Presented by itself, such a wartime story would richly merit disbelief, but unfortunately for the Navy, the wall of denial is full of cracks. Not only has optical invisibility been demonstrated, but also parts of the experimental apparatus have been identified and bought in surplus sales. The author's favorite crack, though, dates back to the Cold War and a certain U.S. carrier skipper who, tired of being hounded at every turn by Russian spy trawlers, reportedly switched on some special countermeasure gear and vanished with his carrier, to the mystification of the trawler skippers and the utter consternation of Soviet high command, whose response was on par with stomping an anthill according to a military aerospace veteran with decades of experience and some interesting spook connections. The disappearance is suggestive in and of itself, but what makes the anecdote deliciously pertinent is that the carrier was subsequently found, after an all-out search, hundreds of miles from where it was last spotted. Sound familiar? All of this is prelude for the real story, by way of another little trip the Eldridge reportedly took, from 1943 to 1983, when it got hyperdimensionally entangled with the Montauk Project, perhaps the reality underlying those two TV programs mentioned earlier. The Montauk Project, located at a supposedly abandoned Air Force radar station near Montauk, Long Island, makes the Philadelphia experiment seem positively tame. Why? Oh, little things like missing children and street people, experimentees fried by radar, mass mind control, trips to Mars, and time travel, not to mention joint U.S. alien projects, of psychics and chairs. As detailed by Preston Nichols in the Montauk Project and Al Bialik in numerous interviews and presentations, see website under his name above and interviews in Matrix 3 by Val Valerian, Leading Edge Research. Montauk was all about the interface of man or boy and machine, the linking of the powers of mind and the powers of technology. Sadly, the path there was perverse in the extreme and involved uninformed, non-consenting experimentation upon systematically and deliberately sexually traumatized people, to create multiple, controllable personalities, many who did not survive either the training or the missions that came later. Disposable people were used because they could disappear and not be missed, were caged like animals underground until needed, then committed to such cheery events as being parked at the antenna feed horn of a radar blasting out megawatts of power, winding up cooked alive as by a giant microwave oven, killed or driven mad by the stresses of training to be psychics, or being lost in various teleportation and time jump experiments. Innocent locals, human and animal alike, found themselves behaving in all kinds of strange ways for no apparent reason, in field trials of electronic mind control. Ultimately, though, it all came down to putting a psychic in a chair designed to first acquire, then greatly amplify, the relatively small signal generated by the psychic's mind, for therein lay the magic. As the renowned Arthur C. Clarke put it, any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. Whether one is talking about the power of group prayer, creative visualization, or ritual magic matters not, for all rely on the effective focusing of will and intention, and that chair, of both US and ET componentry, made the psychic in it a real power, one that had to be carefully controlled and supervised. That power was reportedly used to literally fold the fabric of space-time by creating a vivid mental image of a tunnel from Montauk to the point or point in time desired, then making that portal physically manifest using the enormous power of the radar installation so that personnel, equipment and material could be transported almost instantly across vast reaches in order to carry out the desired mission. A wild tale to be sure, but what if there are independent accounts from others, accounts which not only corroborate or reinforce the basic story, but do so from previously unheard from perspectives? Consider the interview with Helga Morrow. Helga's story. In an early 1990s video interview, Paperclip scientist father, I went to the moon and inside the moon, to Mars and inside Mars, with ex-Bulgarian Academy of Sciences research scientist Vladimir Tertsitsky, now a UFO and Black Project researcher, Helga Morrow, the daughter of Herr Dr. Diplomat Ingenieur Friedrich August Wilhelm Kupers, tells the story of growing up with her father, a scientific and engineering genius, who held 6 doctorates and a bunch of other degrees, who fled Germany in 1930 and came to America. A precocious and polite child who learned to read at age 2, she was the darling of her father, who told her all sorts of things and took her to fascinating places, so long as she didn't ask too many questions. Thus, she became a kind of fly on the wall and was privy to the most astonishing information. Further, her father programmed her to remember when you're 55, which was her age at the interview. There simply isn't space here to give more than the highlights. Her father worked for the Glenn L. Martin Company, now Lockheed Martin, on a series of bleeding-edge projects during and after World War II. How bleeding edge? Would you believe a 1943 time travel project involving Tesla, Einstein, described to her as a humble man, and von Neumann, which resulted in a special award from RCA? She saw paintings in 1956 of the space shuttle, the B-2 stealth bomber, and spacesuited astronauts working on the moon, all while 7 stories underground at her father's office in Golden, Colorado, in a covert Martin Special Project facility located in a nondescript warehouse. Listened as he nonchalantly described trips to and within the moon and Mars, plus heading teams during the late 50s which trained human-looking ETs, Nordics, to pass as Americans and intermarry with standard humans, and informed her during the height of the Cold War that the whole thing was a smokescreen behind which the scientists of the ostensible enemies worked happily together. We love each other. She also informs us her father placed for months some sort of a rod inside her mother while pregnant with her, to enhance the package, yielding not only a brilliant child, but one with such psychic gifts that she could locate German underground bases simply by running her hand across a map. When she asked why not use her talents in the war effort, he warned her, saying, "I will not permit my beautiful daughter to be treated like an animal, then disposed of when they're done." Shades of Montauk's disposable people. The in utero manipulation to enhance psychic talents also figures in 2 accounts much later. Stephanie Rielf's The Mars Records, published online in 2000, and former intuitive communicator Dan Sherman's Above Black, Project Preserve Destiny, inside account of alien contacts and government cover-up, published both online and in book form in 2001. In Sherman's case, he learns from an Air Force officer that his mother was subjected to genetic management while pregnant with him. In Stephanie Rielf's case, It lies in a series of progressive insights in an ex-Navy client who later became her husband as he discovers that he has been very carefully predisposed toward and pushed to do certain things as a result of both genetically based psychic talents and further enhancements before birth. Anyone see a pattern here? The Mars Records. In 2000, holistic kinesiologist Stephanie Rielf published online the first of what became 4 books detailing her systematic unraveling, eyes wide open, i.e., no hypnosis, of the thoroughly screened and booby-trapped memories of Michael Rielf, whose starting point was he used to be in the Navy and had vaguely recalled seeing UFOs. What emerged was so staggering that a stern warning appeared with the books, specifically to protect those with safety and comfort only in the standard model of reality and technology. Others, though, will find themselves on an in-depth course leading an enlisted man to a Montauk-type jump gate under Great Lakes Naval Training Center, thence to Mars, through psychic training there, using drugs, high-speed subliminals and electronic information injection, a process so grueling that 3 of the 15 prospective psychics died before ever seeing a chair, followed by a diverse 20-year career, remote viewer, psychic assassin, Mars-based defender, battle-wounded spacecraft pilot, with the Mars Defense Force, ending up a captain, before getting age regressed 20 years, a time snap, and being sent back through the jump gate to resume his career as a Navy enlisted man, beset throughout by military and ET abductions, for implants, monitoring, biosampling, and mind control reinforcement. Mars mission, anyone?